start out with sort of the basic, rules, regulations, what have you, okay, for Science 10 in my class, all right? And as you heard this morning in the assembly, first and most important thing for success in high school is that you have to be here, all right? If you are not here, you are going to find yourself behind in a hurry, all right? Give you some idea of the pacing, okay? Last year, in Science 9, you went from September to January or from February to June, whichever semester you had it in, okay? If I taught Science 9 at the pace I have to teach Science 10 at just to finish, we'd be done Science 9 in mid-November. Okay? That's how much more material there is in Science 10 and how much faster it's going to move. If you miss a day, you're going to be behind quick. Okay? Now, there are ways that if you miss a day, because that happens, you're sick, you got an appointment, whatever. Okay? There are ways that I are making available to you for you to stay caught up. All right, they require a little work on your own, but okay, at least you stay caught up, you don't get behind that way. All right, so obviously you got to be here, okay, but the big thing you need to understand is that if you're not here, you are still responsible for whatever was done in class that day. All right, not being here on the day we do a lab doesn't get you out of doing the lab. Doesn't get you out of handing in the lab report. All right, you are still responsible to hand it in the same time frame as everyone else. All right, and again, I'll show you all the resources that are available to you, and you'll know why that is and that it isn't that unreasonable an expectation. Okay. All right, so what you're going to do in order to make sure that that happens is you're going to use my podcasts, which are on YouTube, and you're going to follow me on Twitter, okay, and you're going to know exactly what went on each and every day, even if it's a day when you weren't here. And you'll very easily be able to get all the resources that you require in order to stay caught up. Okay, and we'll talk about those in a minute. 1.2, okay, has to do with showing up on time. Okay, you need to be here when the bell goes. There are two different sounds of bell in this school, okay, in case you haven't noticed it yet. All right, there's the two-tone, okay, kind of longer bell. It's kind of like bong bong kind of a bell. Okay, those are the warning bells. That means you have 2 minutes to get to your class. If you hear the really sharp ding 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 kind of bell, okay, that's when class starts. If you hear that sound and you're still in the hallway, you're late. All right, the door will be closed. If you get here and the door is closed, don't come through the door. You're going to wait out there, because I don't want the interruption to everybody else who had the common courtesy to show up on time. Okay? Because if you just walk in that door and I've started my lesson, all the eyes go from the board to you, and it takes me 5 minutes to reacquire everybody. And that's not fair to the people that are in here, and it's not fair to me. All right? So if you are late, wait out there where I can see you. Don't make faces at your friends through the window, because that's worse than being late. Okay? Just wait out there, watch what's going on in here so that when you come in, you can, catch right up. All right? It's never going to be more than 5 or 10 minutes, right? I'll just go to a point where I can conveniently stop, not have an interruption, I'll come and I'll get you. Okay? If you've been waiting out there for like more than 10 minutes, I probably didn't see you. Then you can knock on the door, okay? Don't wait out there for a half an hour. All right? I obviously didn't see you if you're out there for a half an hour. That or I'm really, really mad at you. That doesn't happen very often, okay? So, if you're late, please wait outside so that you're not an interruption to everybody else. Okay. Section 2. This is going to have to do with the resources I'm making available to you to help you review, to help you stay caught up, okay, to help you learn the things, to make everything available to you. All right. The first thing is my website. What you need to do right now is if you have a smartphone, take it out. Okay? You're not going to get in trouble. You're going to use your smartphone in my class. All right? If you've got a tablet, that's even better. All right? If you got the Samsung Galaxy tablet, or you got the whatever the BlackBerry one is, and you got an iPad, whatever, they're great. And if you got one and you want to bring it to school, you can use it in my class, no problem. You got a laptop, you want to bring it, bring it. Okay? Got no problem with that, because you're going to be accessing lots of stuff. All right. So you want to go to my website. The easiest way to do that, okay, would be through the Redeemer website. So if you go to www.redeemer.ab.ca, right, you get the Christ the Redeemer Catholic Schools homepage. Go there right now. Easiest way to get to my website is just to follow through here. Go to the student portal, down to teacher web pages, same as you would have in grade 9 at John Paul II, right? Okay, except now you're going to pick Holy Trinity Academy, and you get our school's page, and then you got all the teacher websites over here on the right. I made it really easy to find mine. by writing more stuff than everyone else so my button appears bigger. Okay? So it's real easy to find. Click on that and it'll take you to my website. This is, guys, one-stop shopping for everything you need for my course. All right? My Twitter feeds are linked on here. My YouTube channels are linked on here. Due dates are on here. All right? And all the notes, assignments, lab sheets, projects, all that stuff is all in here as well. Okay? Everything you could possibly need for Science 10 is on this page. Bookmark it. Okay? You're going to come here a lot. Okay, so the Twitter feed for Science 10 is actually down below. There's a Twitter feed for Physics 20 up top, and there's one for Science 10 down below. Okay, so that'll have, I'm not going to blow up your phone with tweets. Okay, I'm not going to do that. I don't have the time to do that. I'm not Justin Bieber, and I don't care to do that every 5 minutes, okay? You might get, at the most, like 3 from me in a day, and that would only be because maybe we did a lab, and I had to tweet a lab sheet, data, and maybe, you know, some little note about what we did that day at the podcast or whatever. So usually what you'll get in a day is one tweet that has a link to that day's podcast, maybe a second one that's here's the notes for today or something like that. Okay, that would be the most you're normally going to get in one day. All right. And then right beside that is the Science 10 podcasts on YouTube. If you have a YouTube account, you can just subscribe to it, and then when you open up your YouTube app on your phone or whatever, it'll show that, you know, there's one new one for Codair Science 10. Right? Super easy to follow. Okay. Everybody with me so far? Okay. All right. So with the website, the other thing you can get off of here, guys, like I said, is all the notes, assignments, etc. So you will look here in Science 10, Notes and Assignments. Okay, click on that, and this is what you'll see. There's a folder that has data and observations for labs. All right, so if you weren't here the day of a lab, or you've realized that your group's data isn't right, okay, for whatever reason, or you lost your data and you're at home and you have to have it because the lab's due tomorrow, you can just click in here, and you'll see files. Okay, here's the, you know, reactions lab data, etc. You can get it all from there. You just click on it, and so it's like for the work lab, if you click on that, there'll be a chart that shows the data that we acquired in class. Okay. All right. Other things that you can get. Okay. If you look in the chemistry unit here. Okay, each and every lesson is in there. So for some of those lessons, it's just a PDF of the PowerPoint slides, like I would have shown on the smartboard during class, or it's the lab sheet, or it's the assignment sheet, or questions, or worksheets, or whatever. It's all in there, including for some of the worksheets, the keys. Okay, the answers for some of the worksheets are also in here, so you can check and see if you're doing things correctly. Okay, so like naming keys and whatever else, they're all in there. All right, anything you could need for the chem unit, you'd find in the chem unit folder. The thing you're going to need for tomorrow is your Science 10 notes package. All right, I'm not printing the notes. I used to print notes for all my classes, the PowerPoint notes for everybody, and then I did the math on how many acres of forest that destroys in a year, and it was an unfathomable number. So I don't do it anymore. All right, the technology is out there that we can go paperless. We don't need to have that. If you want to have the paper notes, obviously, you go right ahead. Open that file at home, print it off. It's about 60 pages. Okay. All right, that's the short version. Okay, if you open up the notes package, this notes package, all right, it's kind of like a Word file format. Okay, and so you would see 58 pages. Okay, so you got, you know, the same pictures that you would see on the smartboard, but all the notes so that you don't have to write them out in class, and you can listen a little better because you're not scrambling away trying to write down everything that's on the board and what I say. All right, so I would suggest either getting that on your tablet or your phone, okay, or printing it off if that's the case for you. Now, if you have a tablet or a phone, especially if you have an iPhone or an iPad, I know there's apps like this for the other brands, okay, but I don't have one of those. If you have an iPad or an iPhone, there's an app that you can get that'll allow you to write right on my notes off the website. Okay, how many people have used the app Notability before? Anybody used it? Okay, the app's called Notability for the iPad. I don't know what it's called for the other ones. Okay, its icon is a pencil with a microphone on top. I have no idea why, but that's what it looks like. Okay, if you open that, you can open up my notes files from my website. Okay, and then you can write all over them. So if we open up, let's let's say that one there, right? I can scroll through and I can write all over it. It's kind of hard to see because it's dark, but okay, I can make notes in the margins and whatever else for doing problem solving. You could do it on there, okay, that kind of thing. So it's pretty handy that way, and you'd never have a piece of paper to lose. Okay, you just have it all digital, and you can do that with basically any of the platforms. Okay, it's a little harder on your iPhone because it's very small, right? But if you have a tablet or a laptop or whatever, you can kind of do that. Okay, so it's out there if you want to do it that way. If not, you can just print them and write on them the old-fashioned way. That works too. Okay, your other option for notes, but I wouldn't print them this way, is to go lesson by lesson. Now again, since that package is only 58 pages and it has all the same pictures and words, I wouldn't go and open up lesson 1 the PowerPoint way and print all of those slides 1 page each, because you'll go through like 3 reams of paper before you're done. All right, you don't want to do that. Okay, but you can look at them that way. Okay, and that's what I'll link on each tweet. I'll link to those particular notes. Okay, each day. Okay, so that's what you'll need to get most of the time off of my website. Okay, and in addition to that, the due dates are going to be printed here. Okay, so they'll be on the website there under due dates. They'll be written on the board over here. Okay, and I also tweet them. All right, that's the reason you'll want to follow me on Twitter, is I'll give you those little reminders. Like the day we do a lab, I'll tweet the due date. A day later or so, I'll tweet out a reminder, hey, don't forget in 2 days your lab report is due. Night before, I might just, at 6 o'clock go, hey, make sure your lab is done for tomorrow. Okay, if you're following me on Twitter, then you get those, you get paged essentially, right? And you get the little tweet on your phone that, oh, right, I was supposed to do that. I better get to work on that. So there's really no excuse to not have stuff done on time, right? Because you're getting an active reminder from me if you're following me on Twitter. So you are best to do that. If you don't have Twitter, then you got to check my website daily. Okay? And I understand, not everybody has it, and maybe you don't want it. If you don't, just make sure you're checking here each day. Okay? All right. If you're wanting to follow me on Twitter, guys, it is CoderSci10. Okay? So if you go to Twitter, if you open up the Twitter app on your phone, okay, you just look for CoderSci10, and you'll see a page that looks like that. All right, and like I say, on there you'll get, my little tweets, that have the links to the podcasts and what have you. Okay, so good idea to follow on there. And like I say, I'm not going to be blowing up your phone, okay, with tweets every day. All right, I'm not going to, tweet videos of, stupid crap that, was on MTV or whatever. I'm not going to do that. All right, that's not what I'm using this for. All I'm using this for is to tell you things. Make a note of this, though. I'm not using this to communicate back and forth with you. All right? If you want to communicate back and forth with me, email me. Okay? It's kcoder@redeemer.ab.ca, just like everybody else's. It's their first initial and their last name. All right? Don't try and contact me through Twitter, because I don't ever check that part of Twitter. All right? I found out at the end of last semester I had like 20, little messages or whatever, and I didn't even know. Okay? I don't have time to check 4 different email accounts, so I won't be doing it that way. Okay, this is for me to tell you stuff. All right, questions on that? Okay, the other thing that you're going to want to go to, okay, is if you go to YouTube and you search, okay, Coder Science 10, then you'll get my YouTube page. Okay, and on there again are going to be, okay, I left a few of the podcasts from last year up here just so I could show you what they look like today. All right, so you'll see the lessons will always be categorized by unit, by lesson number, and then their title. Okay, the thumbnail for them will always be the first slide that you would have seen on the smartboard in class that day, so you can easily recognize it. All right, everybody with me there? And those numbers match up with the numbers that are in the notes package. All right, so you can always kind of do it that way. Okay, so if you click on those, right, there's usually a little description that goes along with it. This is, the questions you wanted answered or whatever. Okay, all that stuff will be on there. Now, other things that'll be in those podcasts that you'll want to use have to do with PowerSchool. How many people have used their, checked their marks on PowerSchool from grade 9? Okay, I use that to its most unbelievable extent. All right. When you're checking your grades, for science anyway, in PowerSchool, there will be links on every task that will take you to podcasts of that quiz, or podcast of that particular lab, or the results for that lab, or whatever. There will always be links in there that you can follow. Okay. Looks something like this. If you're looking at PowerSchool on your computer at home, right, an individual task looks something like this, okay, where you see, the teacher, the course, and then the assignment name, and then there'll be links in there. Here's the link to the sheet for the lab if you lost it, okay, the data for the lab if you lost that or needed it, and then the podcast that I made of the lab that day where I explained how to do it and what things to do for your lab report. That's always really good to watch when you're putting the lab report together. Okay, whenever you're doing a lab report in my class, always have the podcast playing in the background, because I always give big hints, okay, in the podcast about what to do in your lab report. Makes it really easy to do, okay, and it's not that much extra work. You're sitting there doing work anyway, so you might as well have it, going in your right ear, right, a little bit while you're doing that. All right, if you're looking at it on your phone, which is probably what most of you do, it looks a little bit different. Right? A task looks something like this on your phone, and it's the same idea. It gives you your mark, your score, the category, and then there'll be the links down there. So this would be the quiz sheet, and then this would be the podcast of me solving the quiz, showing you the answers and the solutions, etc. Okay? All that's going to be on there. Once we do a quiz, I put it out there. Right? That way, if you're studying for an exam, you're looking at your marks going, oh, I didn't do very good on that quiz about writing chemical reactions. You click on this and you can watch that quiz again and see where you went wrong, review a little bit. Okay? Do you have to watch the whole podcast every time you open one up? Absolutely not. Okay? Nobody does. I can tell because I look at the analytics and it tells me the average view of a 30-minute lesson is 8 minutes. Okay? That's fine. That's what they're for. They're not meant for you to sit there and watch the whole thing. They're meant for you to go to the part you need, watch it, turn it off. Okay? That's not going to hurt my feelings. Right? That's what they're there for. All right, so those are some of the resources available to you there. Okay, so that should take care of most of section 2. Okay, last thing in section 2 is 2.4 there. With all those resources, there's absolutely no reason for you to come into my class and go, Mr. Coder, what did I miss? Because if you ask me that, you're going to get this answer every time. A lot. Okay? You find out what you missed. You get the resources you need. They're all here. Self-serve. Okay? I don't jump to the pump and pump your gas for you. Okay? It's self-serve. All right? Okay. Questions on those first two sections? Okay. Section 3 is just about behavioral expectations, okay, in the classroom. Obviously, respect is the key. All right, we have you heard Mr. Lytle this morning talking about the culture of our school, and part of that culture is that we show respect for each other. Okay, I'm never going to demean you in front of your classmates, make fun of you or anything like that. I expect that you wouldn't do that to one of your classmates. Okay, and I expect that I get respect from you guys as well. All right, I'm going to work hard for you. I expect you guys to work hard too. Okay. Assignment work. Okay, sorry. 3.2. Listen up. Anytime I say the words "listen up," I want everyone's attention right away. Okay, could be as simple as "listen up. We need to get started. Here's what we're doing today." Listen up. There's a mistake on that lab sheet. Please don't mix those two things together. Okay. Listen up. The room is on fire. We must get out now. Okay. Either way, right? If I say "listen up," I need everyone's attention right then. Okay? If there's a problem getting your attention on a regular basis, I'll ask you to leave the room so that I can have everyone else's attention, and then I'll come outside and talk to you, and I'll have your full and undivided attention then. Okay? All right. For 3.3, it has to do with the work I assign in class. There's different kinds of work. Okay? There's going to be your what we call coached practice. Okay? That's worksheets. Things that I give you, I teach you something, I show you a skill, I demonstrate it, and then you practice it. All right, so you've got a worksheet in front of you on practicing naming ionic compounds, right? You're working on that. I don't expect that is coming in for marks. I'm not marking that sheet, okay? I'm not checking it for completion the next day. It's for you to practice a skill. If you get done the first 25 of them and you got every single one of them right and you're flying along, then when class is over, you can probably say, I know this stuff, I don't need to do any more. All right? But if you struggled along, got 1 out of every 10 of them right, okay, and at the end of class we're only done half the sheet, that might be something you need to take home and do a little more work on, even though it's not coming in for marks. All right? Because you have quizzes in this class, and that's what they're on, the stuff that we practice in class. All right? Everybody with me there? So some of your work, like worksheets, are not being taken in for marks. They'll be assessed on quizzes. That stuff will be assessed on exams, but I'm not taking them into check. All right? Things like lab reports, assignments, projects, those are coming in for marks. You'll get some class time for those, okay? But some of them will be homework as well, okay? Or some parts of them will be homework, and you'll be expected to hand them in on time. All right? And we'll talk about that in a few minutes. All right. Now, a couple of things there in 3.3. If, like, let's say after 3 weeks, you've got a 0 in my class because you haven't handed anything in, that's a problem. In case you were wondering, that is a problem. Okay, and I'll be on you like white on rice. Okay, because I'm going to be all over you for not getting your assignments in. Okay, completing assignments in this class is not an option. If you don't complete them, you're going to have a low mark. You're not going to know the stuff that they are asking you about, and then you're not going to get that stuff right on the tests or the quizzes. It's this horrible circle that you get trapped in, okay, because you haven't done some work and you've gotten behind, et cetera, et cetera. It's just not good. You want to get your work done, okay, hand it in on time so that you know all of the material, okay, and I'm going to keep tabs on you. If it's a real problem, then I have to go to Mr. Lytle or Mrs. Atkinson and say, look, little Johnny isn't getting his stuff done. I've been bringing him in every day at lunch and every day during scheduled help, and he's still not getting it done, and I think we need to step it up a little bit. They'll support me on that. If I have to call your parents and I say, little Jane isn't getting her work done, and I've been bringing her in every day, and I've got all these resources that I'm making available to her, but she's still not doing her work, they don't want to hear that. That's the nightmare phone call for a parent. And once I tell them all the stuff I'm doing for you, they're not going to be mad at me. Okay? They're going to come to you and go, your teacher's bending over backwards for you, and you're not doing anything. And you're going to be looking at 4 gray walls for the foreseeable future. Okay? You don't want to be in that situation. So make sure you're getting it done on time. Okay? You can come in and see me for help pretty much any time. I have no life, so I'm always available. Okay? The inside of the staff room, they changed the furniture in like March. I didn't realize it till May. That's how rarely I go in there. Right? I'm always in here. So if you come in during scheduled help, okay, that 20 minutes that you have right after period 2, right, you can move classes. You can come in and ask me questions then. You can come in at lunch and ask me questions every day of the week. The only day where I'm not here all through lunch hour is Thursday, because I have supervision Thursday's second half of lunch. The rest of the time I'll be in here. Okay, and you can come and ask me questions anytime. I usually will also answer questions if you email me, even after school. All right, so if it's 6:30 or whatever, and you're working on your lab report and you don't get it, and you email me, I'm not going to promise I get back to you like right away. Okay, but most of the time, I'll send something back at some point during the evening to you. All right, I'm here to help you, and I'm willing to do what it takes to do that. Okay, so there's lots of opportunities out there for help. Okay, other thing in 3.3, should you by some act of God achieve a mark of less than 50% on an exam? Okay, and that is a very rare occurrence, believe me. All right, with all these resources and all the help available to you, failure on exams is rare. All right, but if it does happen, all right, and this isn't a punishment, all right, you're going to be spending some time with me in scheduled help and at lunch. We'll work on some stuff from that unit so that I can sort out where you had your misunderstandings. We can make sure that you do understand that stuff, because am I going to ask you about that stuff again? Yeah, on your final exam. Same stuff. I don't want you to get it wrong twice. Okay? So it's not punishment, but you're going to be in. Got to make sure you know what you're doing. All right? But if you're doing your work, you're studying, you're not going to be in that situation. Okay? All right. 3.4. Fairness versus equality. Okay? I try and treat everyone fairly. But when you do that, you don't treat everybody equally. Okay? Those two things are different. All right? Being fair means doing what's best for that person in that situation. All right? And what's best for two people in the same situation may not be the same thing. The example I always use happened about 8 years ago. I had 2 kids come up to my desk because a lab report or an assignment or something was due. They come up to my desk. Neither of them had it done. And the first guy, to his credit, was very honest with me about it, and he said, look, Mr. Coder, I know it was due, but, you know, last night the season finale of, I don't know, whatever, like Survivor or whatever it was he was watching, was on, and I watched it, and I forgot all about my work, and I didn't do it, and it's not done. And I said, well, you know, I appreciate you being honest with me, but now you're going to have to take a late penalty because it's not in. It's not in on time. Get it done as soon as you can and hand it in. The other girl, she didn't have her work done either. She looked like she would have had to get better to die. Okay, imagine how sick she must have looked if she had to get better to die. Okay, and she just looked awful. And she says to me, Mr. Good, I don't have my work done either. I was like, well, okay, why not? Well, you know, I went home last night, and when I got home, my parents were fighting, and they got so mad that they both stormed out of the house, and I had to make dinner for my 4 brothers and sisters, and I made chicken, and I didn't cook it enough, and we all got sick, and we threw up all night long, and I don't have my work done. And I was like, okay, well, I have to be a little bit of a jerk here and say if you hadn't left it till the last minute, that probably wouldn't have happened. But I'm not that much of a jerk. Okay? Don't leave stuff to the last minute or stuff like that happens, by the way. Okay? But obviously in that situation I said, well, you know, I'm really sorry to hear all that. I hope that there's, you know, I hope that your parents are, you know, going to be able to work things out. You know, when you can get it to me, get it to me. Was I fair to both people? Yeah, but I didn't give them the same treatment. Okay? But I was fair. So fairness and equality aren't necessarily the same thing. Okay? If you ever feel that I haven't been fair to you, you come and talk to me after class. Okay? All right, 3.5 here. Accountability. Okay, at the bottom. High school is the start of real life. So, due dates, timelines, things like that are part of your reality. You're going to be much more accountable now than you were in junior high. Okay? So, you're expected to get things done on time for me, for your other teachers as well. Okay? I give plenty of time for assignments to be completed. You will never be given something in this class that is a one-day turnaround. Okay? I will never ask you for a one-day turnaround. That means that if we do a lab tomorrow, I wouldn't ask for it due on Friday. All right? We're not doing a lab tomorrow, by the way. Okay? But that I'm never going to ask for that. It's always going to be a bare minimum of 2 school days before I ask for something to be handed in. You're not going to get 2 class periods necessarily to work on it, okay? But it'll be 2 school days before it is due minimum. Most of the time, it's 3 or 4. Okay? Everybody with me there? Does that give you time to come in and see me and scheduled helper at lunch if you have questions? It does. Can you do that if you leave it to the last minute? And there's the rub, right? Is that if you wait till the last minute, you lose the opportunity to come in and get help. So it's always a good idea to get it done maybe a day ahead of time. Bring it in. I'm happy to look over anything you have before it's due. So if you put a lab report together, bring it to me. I'll look it over and say, okay, I think you need to change a couple of things here, here, and here. And I think you misunderstood what this was saying. It's actually saying this. So maybe you need to think about, you know, this topic or whatever on that question. I'm happy to do that because it helps you learn. Okay? But again, it requires you to have stuff done ahead of time. All right? But I'd be happy to do that for you. Okay? So just make sure you're managing your time effectively. Okay? And hopefully all the stuff we have up there will help you to do that. Okay, so yeah, you have to really start getting things done on a timeline. I know that's not necessarily as big an expectation in junior high, but in high school it is. Okay, and real life, guys, is far more harsh than me. All right, let me tell you how real life works. This example happened to my wife. She used to award contracts and stuff for bidding situations for a large oil company. And the one situation she had was a job this oil company needed done that was being bid on by like 5 or 6 other companies that was worth $1.5 million. All right. The deadline for all the proposals was 12/15. Okay. When you put out something for bid and you say the deadline is 12/15, legally, you can't look at anything that comes in after the deadline. You cannot legally look at it or you'd be in violation or breach of contract. Okay, so you can't even look at it. She received 4 things by 12/15. She received a 5th at 12/40. She can't even look at it. Okay, that company lost out on $1.5 million. I'll bet somebody got fired over that. That's real life. It's harsh. It's cruel. Okay? I'm not that harsh or cruel. All right? If you hand something in late, yeah, you're going to take a late penalty on it. Yes, but I'll still take it. All right? I'd prefer it wasn't like 5 months late because that would really suck. But okay, hopefully we're not dealing with that situation too often. Alrighty, flip her over here to section 4. Okay, assessment and evaluation. So this has to do with your marks and how they're distributed and things like that. Okay, first thing is that I'm not going to discuss your mark with you in class in front of everybody else for a couple of reasons. It's never worked out well when I do that. Okay, and secondly, it's kind of like a Freedom of Information and Privacy Act thing if I talk about what you got in front of everybody else. So I'm not supposed to do that. All right, I've just had that go wrong way too many times. Okay, like I had a kid, I handed his lab back, and he came right up to my desk in front of the whole class and went, "That mark sucks." And yes, a bunch of your eyes just went like this, right? That's what everybody in the class's eyes did. And they're all looking up here at the drama unfolding in front of my desk. And my answer to him was, "You're absolutely right. That mark does suck. Now, see you later." Okay? I'm not talking to you about that mark now, ever. Okay? You just get to keep it. Congratulations. Okay? That's the benefit of being the teacher. In that situation, I get to win. Okay? Now, had he come to me after and said, "No, Mr. Kader, I don't understand why I got this mark. Can you explain it to me?" No problem. All right? You come to me after class when we don't both have to save face in front of 30 other people, I'd be more than happy to explain it. All right? And here's the thing, guys. When you hand something in to me in this class, you will always get it back the next day. And when I say always, I mean it. Okay? In 10 years, I have only once not gotten an assignment back to a class the next day. And it's because my second son was born and I didn't get them marked. I think I had an excuse on that one. Okay? All right? But always, always, you will get it back the next day. All right? Okay. 4.2, your marks will be distributed according to the course syllabus. Okay. Sorry, back to 4.1. I totally forgot where I was going with that. So when I hand those things back to you the next day, the first thing we do is we go over it. Okay? We go through each and every part of that lab report, assignment, project, whatever. Okay? I review the whole thing. That way you can make your corrections and you can use that now as a study tool. All right? That is also why there is a 25% late penalty. Because after I've handed it back and gone over the whole thing, you hand yours in now, and I don't know whether you really knew it all or you just copied everything down while I was going over it. Okay? Not fair to everybody else for you to hand it in and get 100% when they work their butt off to get it in on time. Agreed? Okay? But you'll always, by the time I've gone through it with you, you probably won't need to come up and ask me why you got the mark you did. You'll know. Okay? But still feel free to come up and ask. Okay, 4.2, marks are distributed according to the syllabus. Okay, it's actually at the bottom here. We'll go over that in a few minutes, okay, what everything is worth percentage-wise. Okay, assignments and labs are to be handed in on time. Late assignments, like we said, can be handed in, but will be penalized 25%. Now, here's what I mean by late, all right? If you were here that day, the day things were due, okay, and did not hand it in, okay, then it's late. If you were inexcusably absent, i.e., you skipped my class because you didn't have it done, okay? You're going to take the late penalty. If you were legitimately sick or you had an appointment and you just absolutely couldn't get it to me, okay, that's fine. But I'd better get it the next day, all right? Then it's not late, all right? So if you had an excuse for not being here, okay, that is verified at the office, then obviously I can't, in good conscience, penalize you 25% for that. I'm not going to, all right? Everybody with me there? Right? But if you're here that day and you just don't have it done, it's a 25% late penalty. That does not compound, all right? Okay, there's no like, I'm not keeping track. Like some teachers go, it's 10% first day and 10% the second day. That requires me to keep track of how many days late your project is. I don't believe there are different degrees of late. Okay? Late is like alive and dead. You are one or the other. All right? So you are on time or you are late. There's no in between there. Okay? If it's late, it's 25%. Doesn't matter how late. Okay? If it's a day late, if it's 10 weeks late, it doesn't matter. It's 25%. Okay? All right. Okay, and 4.4, all assignments and labs are due at the start of class on the due date. And here is where you will hand everything in. Okay, here at the back of the classroom on the round table are 4 hand-in boxes. Yours is, okay, the one labeled Science 10, Period 3. Anything you submit for grading needs to go in this box and nowhere else. Okay? It will never get lost as long as it goes in this box. Everybody clear on that one? Now, can you submit stuff to me electronically? Absolutely. If you want to email me something and save some trees, that's fine. Just make sure that you watch for a reply from me. Because when I get assignments sent to me by email, I usually reply, got it, or you can request a receipt sometimes if you have the right email programs, and then I just click send receipt, and then you know that I got your assignment. All right. Otherwise, I would also bring it in on a memory stick. Okay, the next on the due date, bring it in on a memory stick just in case. Sometimes things get lost in cyberspace, right? Okay, always best to not run into that situation. All right, if you're not handing it in on time or something like that, things you don't want to do. Okay, do not hand it in under the door. Okay? If you slip it under the door and the janitors get in here before me, it's gone. I will never see it because anything on the floor is garbage. Okay, and they'll throw it away. Don't take it to Nancy and have her put it in my mailbox. Okay, Nancy's busy. Okay, she doesn't need to be doing that for you. And secondly, if you've ever, well, I don't know if you'll ever see it, but our mailbox system in the staff room is not exactly Canada Post. All right, our mailboxes are about 1 inch tall. Okay, they don't hold very much, about 30 sheets of paper, and they're full. Okay, and they're cramped right on top of each other. So I get Mr. Clay's stuff and I get Mr. Crawford's stuff, and they get my stuff all the time. And our agreement is if it doesn't have my name on it, it's garbage. Okay, and stuff gets lost all the time there too. That and the fact that I never go in the staff room, and I went in there just the other day and picked up some stuff from June. So yeah, don't put it in my mailbox because I'll never know it's there. I never go check it. Okay. So put it in that box. Okay. Also, don't put it on my desk. Right now, my desk isn't too bad. I'm not going to say it's beautiful. It's not. Okay, but it's not too bad. In a couple of weeks, it'll be piled with crap, and I'll just eventually give up on it and just push everything into the garbage and start over. All right. If your stuff is handed in that stuff, it's gone. Okay, and we don't want that. So put it in the box. Can't get lost. Okay. All right. Any questions on any of that? Okay, course syllabus, right? The units that we'll be covering in Science 10 are as follows. Okay, first unit, Alberta Learning calls energy and matter and chemical change. We call that chemistry. Okay, stuff we'll go over in there, you know, different types of chemical substances. We'll look at naming ionic and molecular compounds, which is a bit of review from Science 9, but we do go into a little bit more depth on that as well. We look at evidence of chemical change, types of reactions, writing out reactions, balancing chemical reactions. Near the end, we start looking at the law of conservation of mass, or law of conservation of matter, whichever way you've heard it stated. Okay, and we also look at the mole equation and doing mole calculations, because that's really important when you get to Chem 20 and you start having to do something called stoichiometry. All right. Chem tends to be the toughest unit in the course for a couple of reasons. Especially first semester, you're still kind of learning the routines and the rigor and the changes. You're making the adjustment to high school, all right? And it takes a little while for people to make that. Some people make it quicker than others, okay? But while you're making it, sometimes it's easy to kind of get a little bit lost and a little bit behind, okay? That tends to make chem a little tougher for people. It also, you know, there's some numbers involved, and so, you know, your math skills have to be a little bit more polished, things like that. So it does tend to be the toughest one in the course, all right? But mostly just because you're sort of getting into the hang of the high school type of thing. Okay, second unit ends up being quite a bit easier because now you've sort of made the adjustment, and a lot of people tend to do well with read, memorize, regurgitate. That's bio. If you really like that kind of stuff, take bio, all right, because you'll be really good at it. So in the bio unit, we look at the microscope and how it works, and then we use it to look at cells of different kinds, the parts of cells. We look at how cells work, you know, different structures and functions, transport of materials in cells and then in multicellular organisms. Okay, mostly for multicellular stuff we look at plants in Science 10. You won't be dissecting anything, okay, in Science 10. If you're really looking forward to that, that's Bio 20. All right, you dissect like a pig and an eye and a heart and a kidney and all kinds. You get to cut all kinds of things up. Okay, that's Bio 20. All right, third unit, Alberta Learning calls energy flow and technological systems. We call it physics. Okay, so energy is the big thing. Okay, energy is the big thing in physics. Everything is going to come back to work, energy, okay, and how that kind of stuff works. So there's a lot of that. This is the most math-intensive unit. You'll really have to flex your algebra muscles, okay, in this unit. You'll have to have a calculator, stuff like that. Okay, you'll probably want a calculator for Unit 1 as well, but not right away. Okay, so yeah, there's a lot more of the math in that one, and so it tends to be a little tougher than Unit 2. Okay, but we go over, like say, energy and interconversions. We look at one-dimensional motion, acceleration, okay, stuff like that. We look at work, okay, and how technological devices use all of this physical stuff that we've learned. Okay, and the last unit's really short. Okay, energy flow in global systems. It's kind of a hodgepodge of everything, and none of it really connects to anything else. So we put it last in case we start running short on time. Right? Oftentimes we compress that into like a 10-day stretch in January so that we're ready for your final exam. Right? There's not very much in it, and we can go through it very quickly. It's also a great opportunity for you to bump your mark up right before the final, because it's a short unit. You write a unit exam in that, and you can do well on it because there's not as much stuff, and it's kind of easy stuff. Okay. All right. Your assessment. So your marks distribution here. Okay. Your unit exams, obviously you'll have 4 of those because there's 4 units, okay, are 25% of your final mark. Not 25% each, because that would add up to 100 and that would be it. Okay, so it's a total of 25% between the 4. Okay, your labs, projects, and assignments, in other words, the stuff you do in class, okay, your coursework, okay, is 40% of your final mark. All right, can you get help on that stuff? Yes. Okay, on every bit of that 40%, you can come in and ask me for help. All right, so take advantage of the fact that you can do that. Get your labs done ahead of time, like we talked about. Bring them in, have me look them over, okay, before you hand them in, things like that. Okay, so that's a big 40%. You want to get as much of that as you can. Quizzes, 10% of your final mark. About quizzes, you'll want to write this down. You're going to have one every Tuesday and every Thursday, except not tomorrow, because we haven't gone over enough stuff to have a quiz. Okay, every Tuesday, every Thursday. And I can already see on some of you like the beads of sweat are forming. Oh my God, I've got 2 quizzes a week in science. Okay, they're not big. They don't take all class. They're like 5, maybe 10-minute quizzes. They're never on more than like the last 3 classes. Okay, here's the other good news. Probably 85% of the time, I tweet them the night before. I actually put the quiz on my website and put a link in Twitter to it so that you can look at the quiz and do it at home the night before. Okay? How much time do you think that takes you? 5-10 minutes. Okay? It's a pretty good investment of time because you can walk in the next day and go, I know how to do this, and you write it all down and you get it all right. Okay? Now, when I first started doing that, I asked the students I had at the end of the semester, so what do we call it when you're doing that? And you know what the answer was? Cheating. Like, how's that cheating? I gave you the quizzes. If you were cheating, you'd have stolen the quizzes. That would be cheating. I'm not cheating for you. I'm tricking you. When you go home and you do that quiz at home, what are you doing? You're studying. You're doing homework. Okay? But it's in your best interest to do it. All right? Because the stuff that's on the quizzes is the same stuff that's on the unit exam. All right? When parent-teacher interview time comes, I can almost always circle your quiz mark and your exam mark and have them be within 5% of each other. Okay? Just about all the time. So one is a good predictor of the other. So take advantage of the fact that you want to get those quizzes and do as well as you can on them, and that I'm giving them to you almost all the time. That's why you want to follow me on Twitter. All right? Because that's where you get the quizzes from. Okay? Or check my website each day and make sure that you're getting those. All right? I usually tweet them before I leave. Okay? So they'll be up before 4 o'clock. Okay? Okay. And then your final exam, so as a 2-hour sitting in the gym in January, okay, is 25% of your final mark. Okay, don't let that intimidate you. A lot of people get all worried. Okay, I mean, there should be a certain amount of stress involved with the final exam, but don't panic. The good news about a final exam is there's nothing on there you haven't seen before. Okay, I'm not going to ask you something new on the final exam. And me personally, I don't believe a final exam is the place to ask the hardest questions I can think of either. Okay? The difficulty of a final exam is the amount of material it covers, not the level of difficulty. Okay? So I usually ask more kind of mid-level difficulty questions on a final, but there's more of them because it's a bigger test. Okay? All right. Other things for the classroom here. Someone already asked, are we allowed to eat and drink in here? And the answer to that is yes. Okay, just if you do make a mess, you clean it up, please. Um, and of course, if you come in here with a rock star and a 500-gram bag of Doritos, I'll probably give you a nutrition lecture. But okay, just clean up after yourself. And yeah, a 500-gram bag of Doritos might annoy your classmates while you're crunching away all class. But okay, things like that. Just yeah, you can have food in here. That's fine. I already said that you're going to be using your mobile devices a fair amount in here, so it's fine for you to have a phone, okay, or your smartphone or your tablet or your laptop or whatever, as long as you're using it for what it's supposed to be used for. Okay, if you're like this, I know you're not doing what you're supposed to do. Okay, you're texting your friends, whatever. That's going to be frowned upon. All right, I'm expecting that you're 15, 16 years old and that you're mature enough that you can use it for what it's supposed to be used for. Okay, can you listen to music in here? At times. All right, those times would be if you're sitting at your desk doing a worksheet or working on a lab report or something like that where you're just doing some seat work. Sure, you can have your headphones in. All right, but if I'm up front and I'm talking and I'm teaching, I expect both ears to be free of buds, okay, so that you can hear and pay attention. All right, but you are more than welcome to listen to music when you're doing seat work in my class. No problem with that. Okay. If you miss a handout, so let's say you're absent the day of a lab, okay, and you need to get the handout and you don't want to don't want to print it off the website, all the spare copies of everything will be over here in this drawer unit. They're labeled Science 10, okay, and you'll be able to find stuff easily, really easily in fact, because when I give you something like a lab sheet or an assignment sheet, it's already going to have your name on it. All right, they're all my documents are mail merged with my class lists. So I'll specifically hand you your lab sheet. All right, that way no one ever forgets to write their name on it when they hand it in because it already has their name on it. Okay, so you can find extras. There aren't very many extras, but you'll be able to find them in those drawers should you lose yours and were unable to print it or something like that. Think of what else here. Okay, the going green thing, we kind of already talked about that. I'm not going to be printing notes for you. Okay, like I said, hopefully people can use their electronic devices and avoid killing some trees, but if you really want to kill trees, go home and kill your own trees. Okay, print it at home on your printer. I wouldn't recommend printing it in color unless you're wanting to spend $75 on a new ink cartridge by the time you're done. Okay, probably black and white would be smarter. All right, can you always go to my website and see the color versions if you want? Yeah, so save yourself some money and just print in black and white is probably best. Okay. All right, questions from you guys? Absolutely. Yep, you can have a laptop, use a laptop in here. I got no problem with that. If you have your own laptop that you bring from home, there'll only be one snag with that, and that is you probably won't be able to log into your school account through your personal laptop, which means if there's any streaming video, it won't stream on your laptop. Okay, you guys have probably noticed that you can connect to the guest Wi-Fi right now, but you don't have your login names yet. The guest Wi-Fi will not stream any video. But if you're logged in under your own username and password, then it will. Okay, simply because we can track what you watch when you're logged in under your own name. But on the guest network, when we don't know who's watching that video they shouldn't be watching on a school computer, it won't stream. That way you can't do that. Okay. Anything else? Okay. Tomorrow I'll pass around a seating plan and you guys can just write your name where you're sitting and then I'll fill it in, okay? And we'll see how it goes with you sitting where you want to sit for now. All right, if that works, we'll leave it that way. Once I know your names, then you can shuffle around a little bit, okay, if you want to, but if we have problems with certain combinations of people sitting together, then I reserve the right to move you very, very far from your friends, okay?